Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and on the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, are the Democrats losing their minds because Trump and Vance might be coming out here for the World Cup? That's going to be fun to watch. But before we get to any of that, my friends, time for your daily dose of adrenaline.
You want me to stick this into my heart? Are you f***ing nuts?
Last night at University of Washington was an absolute bleep show. Let's go back in time. Mike and I are finishing up the show yesterday, and my phone starts blowing up from people who know I'm on air. I think they were trying to get me during the commercial breaks. These are people who know better than to call me between the hours of 3 and 6. And it's all people who I talk to about political things, riots, protests, University of Washington, but it's call after call after call, and I'm wondering what's going on. It turns out a whole bunch of Hamasniks and Antifa militants, basically both domestic terrorists, seized control of the engineering building at the University of Washington. Now, this had no advertising beforehand. Usually these guys will say, rise up against Trump or against the Zionist aggressors or whatever the case may be, and plaster it all over social media. There was no chatter on this at all. But apparently there was chatter on the campus. There were some flyers around it, but they didn't put it on social media. So if you're on campus, you might have known about it. But if you're out in the world like the rest of us, you didn't know about it. What happens? They seize control of this building because this is a brand new engineering building on campus, cost about $100 million, paid for by the taxpayers of Washington, paid for by T-Mobile, paid for by a lot of different corporations, including Boeing. Now, why are they mad at Boeing? Boeing is a major military contractor for the U.S., and of course, they sell weapons to Israel as well. So these activists are mad about that, but there was something different about this protest. Normally, what we have seen over the last 2 years since October 7th, or a year and a half since October 7th, what we have seen is it's mostly the Hamasniks and a few Antifa types around. This one, we saw mostly the Antifa types, which means Antifa is just saying, where's the cause? Where's the riot? Where's the fight? We want in. It was the B-level Antifa, where it's the ones who look a little skinny, a little scrawny, a little out of shape, but they're the real deal. They come with their anti-fascist logos and their shields made out of garbage cans. Oh, they look so tough. So tough. Not really. I think a stiff breeze could blow them over. These are the LARPers. These are the cosplayers.
They looking like John Walker from that Thunderbolts. I mean, the new Avengers. I mean, whatever that movie is. Because doesn't he got like a dumb shield in there or something?
They look like discount Captain America is what you're saying. So this is discount Antifa. What happens when you order Antifa on Wish.com? That's what it is? Yes, exactly right. So still, they seize control of the building, and a minivan pulls up and starts unloading supplies like they're expecting to be there for a long time. They also start bringing out all the furniture to build a barricade. Very modern-day Les Mis of them to build this barricade out front of all the brand new furniture from the brand new building. Now, while this is going down, I'm thinking to myself, why hasn't UW police come and stopped it? There's maybe 20 of them inside the building, maybe 60 of them outside. Oh, right. There's like 5 cops at the University of Washington. They need to call for backup. But when this thing first began, it was clear that you could take them out with a stiff breeze. These were not the hardcore activists. These were, I guess, just the protesters on campus who decided to play dress up. That's what it was. But then, after people get out of work, they had reinforcements come, and more of them came, and more of them came. They're still the weekend warrior types, but at the same time, now the cops are outnumbered. There's video of private security showing up and Antifa pushing them back. So now the University of Washington, which I was shocked by, actually called for help. University of Washington police called for the Seattle Police Department, and they called for the Washington State Patrol, both of which responded to campus. This is a huge change from what we saw last year with the Gaza encampment, Where with the Gaza encampment that took over the quad, let them stay, let them stay, let them stay. Then we'll make a deal with them. We'll give them whatever they want. No problem whatsoever. This is night and day from that. I'm excited that at least they're calling the cops this time. So what happens? The cops come onto campus and they issue a dispersal order.
Lieutenant James, the Seattle Police Department Poet Team. UWPD, WSP, and Seattle PD will be making trespass arrests here at this location. Any interference with this operation will result in your arrest.
Okay, you could tell they're kind of the not quite ready for prime time activists here, right? So, okay, they do that, they do a second warning.
Uniformed police officers will be entering this building. If you remain inside, you'll be subject to arrest. You can remain on the sidewalks and peacefully protest. But if you interfere with the police, you'll be subject to arrest and other police actions.
Okay, so that's on campus. Now, what happens is when the police actually start going in, you hear the whole defund the police types. This isn't the kind of stuff you usually get from the Hamasnik types. I mean, sure, they say this kind of stuff, but usually they're focused on the Palestine chants, you know, the free Palestine. By the way, I love what B-listers they are. The Jonathan Show actually published, he got a copy of their chant sheet they had. They needed their own chant sheet because they can't remember what they're saying. Shows how dedicated they actually are to the cause. Here's what happens when the police actually start going in.
We charge you with genocide.
Please clear the street.
Shut the f*** up.
On the sidewalk.
Death to the police.
These officers. If you
Death
remain
to the police.
you can be subject to arrest. Again, you can peacefully protest the west sidewalk. Do not interfere with these officers.
Death to the police.
Do not take their way.
Abolish the police. And a real show.
By the way, I love the one who's chanting there. That is the skinniest drink of water, as you might say, I have ever seen in my life. Looks like you could crack him with your thumb and your forefinger. Looks like that, this skinny little nothing. Yeah, you guys are real tough. So they shut down this protest. They go in and remove all the Hamasniks, which was great, and all the Antifa types. But then, as they're getting arrested, there's this little gem right here.
We love you. We will get justice for you. We see you. We love you. We will get justice for you. We see you. We love you. We will get justice for you. We see you. We love you. We will get justice for you. We see you. We love you. We will get justice for you. We love you.
Oh my God. Somebody like that confesses their love for me. That's a hard pass. So what happens is around 30 of them end up getting arrested. Most of them have been released already because you're talking about misdemeanor trespassing, which is about $1,000 in bail, which means you can get out of there for about $100, but the charges are still pending. And we have an entire list of who was arrested last night that we found on the King County Jail Department. It's up right now, and line by line, we are going through who each one of them is, like the one who used to be a public defender for King County, like the one who's a nurse for Harborview. We're going down that list to tell you who they are, because why are grown-ups LARPing? Why are grown-ups in this whole mix? You want to let the students do it? Fine, students, whatever. Okay. But grown-ups, you guys don't have jobs? You guys don't have better things to do? Also, I really have a real issue with grown-ups who are sitting there going, I'm going to relive my glory days in college. You know, I was in college a cappella. You don't see me going back and singing with college a cappella. Yes, make all the jokes you want right now. But this is actually a sign of a bigger problem. These guys posted a manifesto. This is from the group Super UW, one of these anti-Israel, pro-Hamas groups. They were actually banned from campus last year because they caused over $50,000. They were banned as a student group, because they caused over $50,000 worth of damage to the Husky Union building, otherwise known as the Hub. So they're still allowed to table on campus. So you're still letting them recruit on campus. This is the same group we discussed 2 or 3 weeks ago who is on campus with T-shirts of actual Hamas terrorists and images from October 7th, selling them on the quad. This is the same group that was giving out material stamped by Hamas that is from Hamas's media office. You're still letting them recruit on campus? Are you kidding me? This is absolutely insane. So according to their manifesto, we are taking this building amidst the current and renewed wave of student intifada. Okay, intifada means armed uprising. In the 2000 intifada, the year 2000, over 1,000 people were killed, Jews, Muslims, and Christians, because the terrorists just want to kill as many civilians as possible. Is that what you guys are looking for? Well, let's read a little bit more. Following the uprising of Student Action for Palestine, after the heroic victory of Al-Aqsa flood on October 7th. Hang on a second. Al-Aqsa flood was the name of the October 7th operation that Hamas did, which killed over 1,200 people, took another 250 hostage. With all the rape, murdering, torturing, all that went on. You know the thing that kidnapped children and old people, including Holocaust survivors? That thing, that's what they call Al-Aqsa flood, which shattered the illusion of Zionist imperialist domination and brought Palestine to the forefront for all justice-loving people of the world. This is just a small little piece of their manifesto. Imagine how much worse the rest of it is. I'm not posting it online. I'm not spreading their propaganda. That's not something I'm going to do. But what's fascinating to me is the media, all of them. You go to any Seattle media site today, this is what's on the top page of all of them, except for Cairo 7, which buried it down below, and actually their reporting is some of the absolute worst I've seen on what happened last night. It seems like every media outlet in town, with the exception of, I think, Como News, was talking about activists. Don't mention Antifa. Don't mention Hamas. Don't mention the manifesto. It's just a protest that went bad. Give me a break. You really need me to correct all those headlines for you? Now, here's what was shocking. University of Washington President Anna-Marie Cauchi comes out with a statement. Late yesterday afternoon, a group identifying themselves as the suspended student organization Super UW posted on social media that they were occupying the interdisciplinary engineering building on the Seattle campus and asked for other groups to join them. These groups temporarily occupied and vandalized the building before being arrested by law enforcement officers from UW-PD, the Seattle Police Department, and the Washington State Patrol. They also set fire to dumpsters in a nearby street after blocking exits in the IEB and blocking nearby streets to delay firefighter access. Oh, yeah, forgot to mention that. So what do? They're flipping a whole bunch of dumpsters and blocking streets. They're dragging out bike racks, blocking the shuttles on campus, but also lighting fire to these barricades that they're building. At one point, they won't let the fire department come and put out the fire, and it was getting dangerously close to a building nearby. Now, this is where things change for Anna Marie, who, let's not forget, made deal with the Hamasniks last time around. She says this was no peaceful protest in support of Palestinian rights or against the war in Gaza. I condemn this dangerous, violent, and illegal building occupation and related vandalism. I also condemn in the strongest terms the group's statement celebrating the October 7, 2023 Hamas terrorist attacks against Israeli civilians. The university will not be intimidated by this sort of horrific and destructive behavior and will not engage in dialogue with any group using or condoning such destructive tactics. Wait a second. You did before. So the problem with this statement is this is what she should have written last year. If she had been writing this the whole time, I wouldn't question her motivations. But now she's writing this when the Trump administration has put their funding on the chopping block, when they have them under the magnifying glass. All the statements that came out from University of Washington last night were perfect. So all it took was a new president, not of UW, but in the Oval Office for you guys to do the right thing. Oh, they threaten your money. So now you're worried you're going to lose all your funding. University of Washington has already started suspending pay raises for people and making cutbacks because they're worried about how much federal funding they're going to lose because they know they are screwed. The Department of Education, the Justice Department, has them dead to rights. And even if they didn't have them on all the anti-Semitic stuff that happened last year, they'd have them with what happened with Olivia Krolchek from Turning Point USA in the Riley Gaines Center, who came on campus just a couple months ago, and the university let Antifa and other protests shut her down. By the way, she's going back tonight. University of Washington's going to be hopping tonight. Everybody from the left and the right is going to be out there because there's this Turning Point event, Turning Point USA event with Riley Gaines and Olivia Krolchek on campus. And a whole bunch of these people from last night just got out of jail. What do you think's going to happen tonight at the University of Washington? Now, sorry, getting back to Anna Marie Cauchi from University of Washington, I have no faith that your words mean anything. You're literally the one who praised the protesters before. Oh, and did I forget to mention? Sorry, forgot to mention this. I got a public disclosure back from 6 months ago. 6 months ago. No, actually, it's almost a year ago from University of Washington. Got it back just the other day. And you know what it is? It's Senator Yasmin Trudeau praising the Gaza encampment. You know, the violent encampment where they attacked Jews, spat on Jews, the ones that vandalized the campus, that one, praising it and praising the president for how she interacted with them and how she gave them everything she wanted. So it's nice that UW finally grew a spine, but I think it's only because their funding is on the chopping block. I want to know what you think. Do you think they've had a change of heart? Or do you think this is just because their federal funding is at risk? Also, even though they're saying all the right things now and doing all the right things now, do you think they should still lose their federal funding? I do. Give me a call or a text and let me know what you think. 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Now, you would think with all this going on, we would hear from the governor, Bob Ferguson, who's an alum of the University of Washington. And you would think we would hear from University of Washington former football star Bruce Harrell. That's all the guy talks about. All we know is that he played for the University of Washington. I can't name anything else he's done. That's all I know. Have we heard anything from him? Oh, it looks like, wait. We do have a statement from them. Hang on one second. Got it right here. Nothing. Just like last year, where they were silent when all this was going on. Not one thing from either of them. Cowards. You are both cowards. You were cowards last year. You're cowards this year. Bob is in deep with CARE, the Council for American Islamic Relations. He was honored at their dinner, a branch of Hamas in the U.S. We know where you stand. Last year when the Seattle Times was asking him about all this stuff on campus for his endorsement meeting with them, he completely blew the answer. He rambled such a word salad he could challenge Kamala Harris. Bruce Harrell didn't say anything at all. Both MIA. Senator John Braun, the Republican leader in the Senate, issued a great statement thanking UW for finally stepping up and condemning the actions of the protesters and asking, where are the Democrats? Shouldn't they be saying something about this? I have not seen a single statement, not one, from any Democrat in this state about what happened last night. Cowards. You are all a bunch of cowards. Or, worse than that, you're all on the side of the terrorists, the Antifa activists and the Hamasniks. Maybe you're no better than the faculty at the University of Washington who wish they could actually be out there with them. Oh, and some of them were. We've got some of their names. This is cowardice, or it's collusion. What do you think it is? Give us a call or a text, 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line. Take a call from John in Phoenix. John, what's going on?
Hey, how are you? Love the show.
Thank you. What's up?
Saw your post last night about what's happening at the University of Washington. To me, it's the Jews do a bad job. As a Jew myself, we do a bad job of PR in terms of all these anti-Israel protests.
Mm-hmm.
These people are burning American flags. I wonder how we could do a better job overall on what you think of. This isn't we don't like Jews. Of course, the crazy people protesting don't like us, but they don't like Hindus. They don't like Catholics. They're just anti-America. How can we kind of get the nation to really understand this messaging? Because the majority of Americans, I think, are proud. They may not have a flag in front of their house, but they like America overall. And these lunatics on college campus are just coming off as anti-Israel, but really they're just woke monsters.
So I've been screaming that from the rooftops for the past year and a half, right? Which is they're anti-Western civilization. They hate everything about the West. And if you read all their material, Hamas's manifesto, they want to get rid of Israel, then they want to get rid of America. This is no secret. Why are the Houthi rebels attacking American shipping if they hate the Jews so much? This is Hezbollah. Why are they blowing up Marine barracks of the U.S. when they hate Israel? No, what it is they hate Western values. So we always call Israel the canary in the coal mine for Western civilization. Seattle's the canary in the coal mine for the U.S. It's really banging that drum. And we actually see the Trump administration doing a great job of this because they get accused all the time of, oh, you're being paid by the Jews. You're being run by the Jews. And they say, no. Brian Mast actually said it best. Brian Mast said, Israel is our aircraft carrier. They are our outpost right there in the Middle East. They are our best ally, one of our best friends. Really, the message you have to be getting out there is just screenshot and show what Hamas says about America. It's all there for anybody to see, but so many people don't actually want to see it. It is all there. It is all visible, but here's the easiest way to show it. If these people truly thought they were standing up for America in any way, shape, or form, wouldn't you be seeing American flags at all these Antifa protests? Wouldn't you be seeing them at all these pro-Palestine protests if they thought the Jews are running America? You never see American flags at any of these events, and you never hear them calling for the American hostages to be returned. You just keep repeating that over and over and over again, John, all right?
Thank you. And then just sidebar, I don't know if you read the Wall Street Journal. I've been reading it for years. I love it. I've noticed their coverage, forget against Israel, maybe has changed a bit, but specifically against Elon Musk representing Western values. Have you noticed anything about the Wall Street Journal? Because it used to be mainstream right, and now it's,
yeah, it sort of has drifted. It was more centrist, center-right, I'd call it. It's starting to go center-left. I've noticed that recently. I haven't been reading it as religiously as I used to. I used to get it delivered to my house, back when we had newspapers. But I haven't been reading it recently. But, John, tell you what, I'm going to take a look at it, all right?
All good. Thanks for the call. Appreciate it.
No problem. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Got about a minute before the break. We go back to the Warrior Injury Law studio line, take a call from Bennett. Bennett, what's going on?
Oh, darn, this is too long for 1 minute, but I'll get to it quickly. So
yeah, what's up?
Look, so you were talking about HR 867 yesterday, and you were saying you were reading from that Substack post where they said it doesn't impose penalties on individual people, and it doesn't prevent you from participating in a boycott of your own free choice.
Yes.
So I looked up what it is. So I would encourage people playing along at home, Google this, Anti-Boycott Act of 2018. This is the act that's modified by HR 867. And it says any person it says any individual person, United States person, refusing to do business with a boycotted country, pursuant to a request from behalf of the boycotting country, shall upon be convicted, be fined not more than $1 million.
Time out. Bennett, you're doing exactly what I was pointing out on the show yesterday. You are cherry picking that one section without reading the entire thing in context. Now, while I'm more than happy to go back and forth with you with this entire thing on context, that's why I did the entire thing on the show yesterday. Now, I have a question for you. Did you oppose this thing in 2018?
I didn't know about it in 2018.
Okay. Did you oppose it? Did you oppose it? Wait a second. Hang on, Bennett. Did you oppose it before then when there were other versions of this that were out there?
I would oppose anything that says that you as an individual person are not allowed to choose to go along with a boycott for any reason you want.
So then do you oppose sanctions on countries that do business with Iran?
I think if you are a United States person, and it's like if we're sanctioning a specific place for like sponsoring terrorist organizations, But
you know what the sanctions do? The sanctions say if you do business with Iran, even as an American business person, you can be penalized and jailed. Do you agree with sanctions or not?
I think that is different if you are trying to cut off all trade between two countries. What the Anti-Boycott Act says is that if you as an individual choose to go along
But
with
what
a
I'm saying is that that's
Israel,
exactly what we're doing with Iran. That's exactly what we're doing with Russia. That's what sanctions are. Most people don't understand what sanctions are. That's exactly what sanctions are. Wish we had more time for the discussion today, Bennett. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, my friends, lots more to discuss, including are there going to be any Rite Aids or Bartells near us very soon? Looks like the chain's in trouble, and the left might lose it if Trump and Vance come to town for the World Cup. We'll give you all details when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show. I find it entertaining that everybody was all excited that FIFA, the World Cup, was coming to Seattle. And then today, President Trump and J.D. Vance had a whole press conference talking about the World Cup. So everybody was excited about the World Cup. Does this mean the president and J.D. Vance are going to be coming out to Seattle? J.D. Vance was literally put in charge of the task force on FIFA. So I believe at minimum, he is going to be coming out to Seattle. This is what the president said earlier today. So if Trump wants to send in people to clean up Seattle, does that mean they're going to say resist? Does that mean Bruce Harrell and Bob Ferguson, resist, resist? We don't want the federal government in here. I love that's called the task force because to clean up Seattle is going to take a task force, my friends. Here's what the Veep said. At least he's got a sense of humor about when he almost dropped that thing. You saw that video. That didn't quite make the conservative rounds, but it was kind of funny. So he meets the Pope, and the Pope dies in the same week that that trophy goes bust. I got questions. Maybe we don't want to give him the trophy. I'm just kidding. We love Vice President Vance. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line, take a call from our friend Transit Joe. Transit Joe, what's up, man?
Oh, what's up was last night was horrible. It makes me sick to my stomach. I mean, I sent the Board of Regents a letter requesting that they put their meetings on YouTube and deal with the anti-Semitism. And then all of a sudden, we have, these terrorist attacks that, happened last night.
Yeah.
And I, as you know, I was doing intel for you. I was monitoring, this group, and posting what was inside to hopefully pass to you and law enforcement for situational awareness. And
hang on one second. Joe, 1 second. This just came across right now. I'm doing breaking news while I got you on right now.
Talk Radio 570 KVI. Breaking news on the Ari Hoffman Show.
So the University of Washington Jewish alumni was receiving reports that classes in the engineering building were canceled for the rest of the week. Now, my thing was when the hub got vandalized for $50,000, they had it cleaned up the next day. For classes to be canceled the rest of the week, how bad is it? Well, now Chris Daniels over at Como News is reporting that the University of Washington says there was more than $1 million worth of damage done to the building. And he's got pictures to go with it. I see smashed computer screens. I see smashed engineering devices. Over $1 million worth of damage, Joe. Isn't that insane?
Damn it.
Yeah.
Damn it.
Yeah, exactly.
Look, I wouldn't want it to be a Husky, and I know several great alumni like the Super Jew president of Redmond, Vanessa Kurtzer, and we both know a super alumni in Heidi Wells, and it's hard to keep my composure. And of course, Dow Constantine. But I will make a promise to you and your listeners, Ari. There is a 4 o'clock Regents meeting tomorrow about the budget. I'm going to bring that anger that I had about us talking at each other over the head tax to that meeting, because I bet Chris Daniels will be there, and I'll bet something else. People need to be angry right now, because this is what appeasement has cost, $1 million in damage. We have we have got to hold the UW administration to their promises, and the King County prosecutor to the promises to prosecute these terrorists. Because quite frankly, if they don't, I think the UW should prepare to lose every single federal grant. That's what happened to Harvard.
And I think they would deserve it. I think they would absolutely deserve it, Joe. Appreciate the call. Appreciate your passion. You want to be part of the show, give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, my friends, the Houthis messed around and they found out, my friends. An entire airport no longer exists. Was it the U.S.? Was it Israel? Who did it? We'll give you all details when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. So we need to go outside the swamp to explain what's happening inside the swamp. So we discussed yesterday how over the weekend, the Houthi rebels out of Yemen launched a whole bunch of missiles, ballistic missiles, at Israel. Israel was able to take out 26 of 27. One of them landed next to Ben Gurion Airport, which means it was targeting the airport directly. So it lands on, I don't know, a piece of dirt, piece of grass outside the airport. Nobody gets hurt, but still, that's an act of war. Now, for the short term, Israel has not been attacking the Houthis because the U.S. said, we'll take care of the Houthis, leave it to us. Israel said, we're not going to take it anymore after this. Very twisted sister of them. They got in their fighter jets and they flew on over to Yemen and they bombed the crap out of a bunch of power plants, factories, you name it. But they also annihilated their airport. Mike, you ever seen the movie Swordfish with Travolta and Hugh Jackman? It's a great movie. The tech in it doesn't hold up so well, but overall, the movie's a good movie. But I find myself identifying more with the John Travolta character than with the Hugh Jackman character the more I watch that movie. Why? Do you remember why John Travolta's the bad guy for a second? John Travolta wants to steal all the money from all these places for the U.S. government so that he can do counterterrorism operations. One of his lines is, you kill an American, we bomb a transmitter. You kill 10 Americans, we take out an airport. So the Houthis blew up a little hole in the ground right next to an airport, and Israel destroyed their airport. Now, mind you, their airport wasn't very big to begin with, but it's also a place where they were doing a lot of their operations and getting a lot of their supplies from. So after Israel blows up the Houthis, there are reports coming out that the Houthis want the U.S. to stop attacking them. They just can't take it anymore. Here's what President Trump said in the White House today.
We had some very good news last night. The Houthis have announced that they are not, or they've announced to us at least, that they don't want to fight anymore. They just don't want to fight. And we will honor that. And we will stop the bombings. And they have capitulated. But more importantly, we will take their word. They say they will not be blowing up ships anymore. And that's what the purpose of what we were doing. So that's just news. We just found out about that. So I think that's very, very positive. They were knocking out a lot of ships going, as you know, sailing beautifully down the various seas. It wasn't just the canal. It was a lot of other places. And I will accept their word, and we are going to stop the bombing of the Houthis, effective immediately.
So then this report comes out from Bloomberg, from Jordan Fabian. In a subsequent interview with Bloomberg News, Mohammed al-Bukhari, a member of the Houthi political council, said the group's operations in the Red Sea and Israel will not stop regardless of the consequences until the end of the aggression on Gaza and blockade on its people. Okay, so are you telling the president one thing and telling everybody else something else? Are you guys lying to everyone? What is the story with the Houthis? You can't trust the Houthi rebels. They're a bunch of Islamic terrorists. You can't trust them anyway. But that's a new report that's coming out. This is just like Iran. We promise we'll be good. We promise we'll be good. Come negotiate with us. Ha ha, just kidding. Same kind of thing. What do they respect in the Middle East? Strength. And Israel just blew their airport to hell. So reporters start asking a little bit more about what Trump was saying.
Can you tell us a bit more about the deal that you've reached with the Houthis? That you
No,
mentioned
it's not a
at the
deal.
start?
They've said, please don't bomb us anymore, and we're not going to attack your ships.
And where did you hear about that?
It doesn't matter where I hear it. The very good source, I could tell you. Very, very good source. Would you say, Marco? I would say pretty good, right, JD? A very good source.
So they're telling him that, but Trump, once again, is playing four-dimensional chess. We'll stop bombing you. Bibi, let me tell you, I didn't say anything about you guys. Israel wants to go bomb the Houthis. You can go bomb the Houthis. We'll give you the bombs. President Trump also said something else about possible peace in the Middle East.
We'll have maybe before we're going to, as you know, the Middle East, Saudi Arabia. We're going to UAE and Qatar. And that'll be, I guess, Monday night. Some of you are coming with us. I think before then we're going to have a very, very big announcement to make. Like as big as it gets. And I won't tell you on what. But it's going to, and it's very positive. I'd tell you if it was negative or positive. I can't keep that out. It is really, really positive. And that announcement will be made either Thursday or Friday or Monday before we leave. But it'll be one of the most important announcements that have been made in many years about a certain subject, very important subject. So you'll all be here.
Look, we hope he's right. We hope he's right. We hope it's real. We hope this is actually going to happen. Everybody wants peace in the Middle East. We really, really do. We hope it's good news. I think everybody at this point is tired of war. All that Hamas has to do is return the hostages and surrender. And they announced today they are not going to make any more ceasefire deals with Israel. So after a year and a half of lying, this is it. This is the end game, my friends, which is why Israel is ramping up and calling up all the reservists. When we come back, speaking of our beautiful American military, Seafair is one of everybody's favorite events, but they managed to tick off a lot of people. Are they going woke, or are they just adjusting for the times? We'll give you the details when we come back. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. I was going to let this one go. I really, really was. I was going to let this one go. I saw it posted today that Seafair is getting rid of Miss Seafair. And I said, okay, maybe they're just revamping. Maybe this isn't a woke thing. I was going to let this go. I really, really was. Because the Miss Seafair program, it's great. It's a scholarship program. In fact, a lot of the stuff that Seafair does is a lot of giving back to the community, and I love Seafair. I really do love Seafair. One of the highlights of when I owned my bounce house company, my event rental company, was when Seafair was one of my clients. And I loved being at all their events, having my stuff at all their events. It was awesome. You've never seen bounce houses like that before. They were the best bounce houses you've ever seen. It was really great. I loved it. I loved working with them. They were great. So what do they say they're going to do? They're getting rid of Miss Seafair, and they're going to focus on their royal couple, right? So what they have in this press release, Beloved Summer Festival welcomes Eric Johnson and Carmen Best as 2025 King Neptune and Queen Alcyone, I don't know how it's pronounced, and launches new program to honor emerging community leaders. Okay. They say they're going to retire the Miss Seafair, I guess, role and just focus on these two people. Now, the problem I have with this isn't so much the wokeness of it. Why are you honoring Carmen Best? Why does she still have hero status here in Seattle? I really don't get it. I really don't. Originally, we thought, oh, she's so brave, she's so great. She stood up to the mayor, didn't want to surrender the police station during the deadly autonomous zone. She didn't want to have to do anything with that. But then we found out she had just as much to do with it as Jenny Durkin. Is that the person you want to put up there? Also, we like Eric Johnson. We know Eric Johnson. We used to work in the same building as Eric Johnson. Eric Johnson, one of the nicest, most genuine guys you've ever met. Always had a good word to say. Always down to talk sports, whatever else. There was a snack area near Eric Johnson. I would always wander over and say hi to Eric Johnson. How you doing? He's one of the people that first covered the cemetery. He put me in Seattle is Dying. He told it like it was when so many people in the media refused to do so. But Carmen Best, the former Seattle police chief who surrendered the autonomous zone, who surrendered the Seattle police precinct to the mob that led to the autonomous zone, and it was a joint decision between her and the mayor. One thing I didn't understand at the time, if the mayor is ordering you to abandon a police station, you should have quit then. We found out later she was in favor of the decision. She was on those text threads. She was one of the people who deleted the texts, who still hasn't seen justice for that. This is who Seafair is honoring? Guys, I really don't get why you're honoring Carmen Best. I really don't get why she still has celebrity status here in Seattle. We got a whole lot more to discuss as the show continues. Forget Alcatraz. I got the ultimate place here in Washington to put all these dangerous felons. Cost you a fraction of the amount, and we can keep the tourist attraction. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and on the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, the scandal that Bob Ferguson and local Democrats don't want you to know about. But before we get to any of that, the more and more I hear the Trump administration talk about Alcatraz. It kind of sounds like Megatron, doesn't it? But we're talking about Alcatraz, right? So, Alcatraz. The more and more I realize this is about starting a national conversation. We're not going to reopen the Rock. That's not what we're talking about. What President Trump is talking about is how Democrats always wanted to close prisons, abolish the police, and Republicans want to make sure people are safe and go for law and order. So just earlier today, Stephen Miller was talking about this on Fox News.
Alcatraz was built at a time when this country was strong and it knew how to take care of villains and monsters. There are people in this country, as President Trump has said, who will do nothing with their lives but rape, maim, and murder. They cannot be rehabilitated. They cannot be saved. They cannot be coached in some better way of living. They are always going to hurt. They are always going to steal. They are always going to attack. And we need a place in this country where we can send people to visually demonstrate their total separation from society. The fact that they are not going to live among us and will never live among us.
I have just the place. I've been thinking about this for a while. I got just the place to send them.
Washington State's McNeil Island is a beautiful long vacation destination for level 3 sex offenders. Now, Jay Inslee, Bob Ferguson, and Washington Democrats are bringing the experience to your neighborhood. Department of Corrections Tours is sending the offenders to beautiful halfway houses with no guards and no security on sprawling properties in rural residential areas. Who needs safety when you can feel good about yourself with virtue signaling? If you're asking yourself, how can I be part of the fun? Chances are you are already. No one is informing the neighbors. So look out your window and find out if you've been selected as one of the lucky recipients of a level 3 sex offender in your neighborhood. This message unfortunately not sponsored by the Department of Corrections and the Department of Social and Health Services. May the odds ever be in your favor.
You know, I'm half joking, and I know a lot of you are saying, Hoffman, what's wrong with you? If you send them there, Ferguson's just going to release all of them. What are you doing? I actually went and asked Grok. This is what AI is actually good for. Grok is great at immediately coming up with the history of something. So here's the history of McNeil Island, which is located in Washington's Puget Sound, about 2.8 miles from Steilacoom. Has storied history tied to its use as a prison for over a century. Named in 1841 by Charles Wilkie after Captain William Henry McNeil, the island was originally inhabited by the Steilacoom people, a Coast Salish tribe, before it was seized by the U.S. government in the early 1840s. The prison's history began in 1870 when the federal government purchased the 27.27 acres on the island for a territorial jail authorized by Congress in 1867. On May 28, 1875, the McNeil Island Territorial Prison officially opened under the direction of the U.S. Marshal, started with 9 inmates. By 1893, it had its first warden, Gilbert L. Palmer, and a custodial force of 7 guards. The original cell house was built in 1873. In 1904, the facility was declared an official U.S. federal penitentiary under Attorney General Philander C. Knox, becoming the first federal prison in the U.S. West. It expanded over time, with additional land purchases, including 67 acres in 1927 for a prison farm and 1,618.33 acres in 1931 for water needs, bringing the total 2,107.3 acres, nearly half of the island's 4,445 acres. By 1940, the federal government owned the entire island, roughly 7 square miles. The prison housed a range of inmates, from military prisoners to civilians, including notable figures like Robert Strond, the Birdman of Alcatraz, Charles Manson, Alvin Creepy Karpis. These are all the people who were at Alcatraz, by the way. And it's all after Alcatraz, FYI, a lot of them. So a Depression-era gangster was transferred from Alcatraz in 1962 because they were closing the prison. During World War II, 85 Japanese-American draft resistors, including civil rights activist Gordon Hirabayashi, were imprisoned for protesting wartime confinement. They were pardoned by President Harry S. Truman in 1947. The prison also held Chinese immigrants in the late 1880s for immigration violations. You see where we're going here? It's already ready to go. Marking early overlaps between immigration and criminal law, known as crimmigration. Okay, we're bringing that back, Mike. I didn't even know that term before, but crimmigration? That is a new term we are stealing from Grok. McNeil Island was unique for its isolation, accessible only by boat or air, which added a layer of security, but increased operational costs. It operated as a prison without walls, compared to harsher facilities like Alcatraz, emphasizing rehabilitation through work programs. Inmates farmed, built ships, learned trades like leatherworking and machining. Hang on a minute. Okay, can we just analyze this for a second? I don't think it's the best idea to teach the inmates on your prison island to build boats. Call me crazy. That may not be the best idea. Okay, we're going to have to reform this a little bit. Fix this up a little bit here. They even had their own newspaper, the Island Lantern, from 1924. During World War II, inmates contributed to the war effort by building military boats and manufacturing cargo nets. By the 1970s, the Federal Bureau of Prisons deemed the aging facility obsolete due to high maintenance costs, over $300,000 annually for marine transport alone, and a shift towards smaller prisons. In 1976, the federal government began phasing it out, and by 1981, it was fully transferred to the Washington State Department of Corrections. The state leased the facility in 1891, renaming it the McNeil Island Correction Center and acquiring full ownership in 1984. As a state prison, the McNeil Island Correctional Facility operated as a medium security facility housing up to 1,340 inmates by 1966. It was considered progressive, with programs like the Work Ethic Camp in the 1990s, but faced challenges with rising costs and aging infrastructure. In November of 2010, Washington announced plans to close McNeil Island by April of 2011 due to budget cuts, saving an estimated $8.6 to $14 million annually. The closure marked the end of the last island-based prison in the U.S. Today, McNeil Island hosts a special commitment center established in 1998 under Washington's Community Protection Act of 1990. The center, operated by the Department of Social and Health Services, indefinitely confines 214 to 268 sexually violent predators for treatment after their prison sentences. So I think we just take this thing and reformat it a little bit, right? People we want to keep away from society. The problem is with McNeil Island, it has some of the same problems as Alcatraz Island, which is the costs are more expensive. Now, our issue with McNeil Island is that the Democrats are releasing the sex offenders into unsuspecting communities. If you said we want to close McNeil Island because we want to transfer them to max security somewhere else, we'd be perfectly fine with that. But if you're keeping the thing up and running anyway because you don't want to send the sex offenders to wherever you want to send them, and we don't want them in our neighborhoods, maybe ask the federal government to pay for things around here, right? Hang on. I can solve the budget crisis. I can solve it right now. Now, Bob Ferguson, I want you to sit down with President Trump, and you're going to say to him, Mr. President, we need X amount of millions of dollars to keep this facility running, and he's going to go, no problem, Bob. I know you weren't always my biggest fan, but now you like me. You came asking me for things. No problem. We're going to sit down. I'm going to give you the money so we can have a new Alcatraz. It could be that simple. It really could be that simple. Do you think they will actually do it? Probably not, because McNeil Island, the costs have skyrocketed, and the Democrats are trying to get rid of the thing, but also there are other prisons. When's the last time you heard about a prison break, except for that stupidity in Seattle the other day, where some felon is at the airport being escorted to Tennessee, and somehow he manages to escape via the light rail? The light rail. Really? That's how you escape federal custody these days? Or whatever it was, Tennessee custody these days? Via the light rail? What do you guys think of my idea to use McNeil Island? Give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. We go to the Warrior Injury Law studio line. Take a call from Steve in Seattle. Steve, what's up, man?
Hey, how you doing, Ari?
Doing
Love your
good.
show, first-time caller.
Thank you. What's going on?
I live right across the water from McNeil Island.
Mm-hmm.
That island is absolutely gorgeous. It's prime real estate. I do not think they should make it. I mean, I know the prison's already there.
Yeah.
But close it. I'm a truck driver. I drive across the state every day, and there are a lot of places out in the sticks where we could put a prison. They don't deserve that beautiful piece of land.
I agree with you, by the way, and that's what I was saying about Alcatraz. It's a fun tourist attraction. San Francisco doesn't deserve such a cool tourist attraction, but at the same time, it's not practical to use it, right? Now, McNeil Island.
That's true.
Right. McNeil Island, we've been talking about this on the show for literally since our first year, Mike. We've been talking about how they're releasing the level 3 sex offenders. So we've been talking about that, and we say, you want to send them to a Ubermax prison? Fine. But releasing them into unsuspecting communities is the problem. You want to say McNeil Island is dated and it's expensive to operate? Fine. There's, of course, an argument to be made there. You want to say you want to turn it into real estate where we send politicians so we never have to deal with them ever again? Wait, hang on. Okay, hang on, Steve. What if we took Olympia and just move them all to McNeil Island and let them think they're in charge of their own little country there, and then we don't have to deal with them anymore? What do you think?
That would be an excellent idea.
Okay. See, this is how we solve disagreements, Steve. Appreciate the call, man.
We separate them from everybody.
Exactly. Just got to keep them separated, just like them offspring say. Appreciate it, Steve. Appreciate the call. Thank you for listening to the show. Thank you for the kind words. Appreciate it. You want to be part of the show, give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. We go back to the Warrior Injury Law studio line. Take a call from Doug and Roy. Doug, what's going on?
Oh, yeah. I got a great idea, and it's not actually my idea, but somebody mentioned it years ago. Well, the West Coast and PSNS and all across, we have all these old mothballs.
Doug, I think I'm losing you. You got like a breaking up kind of thing. It sounds kind of digitally. Stand where you are so I can hear you.
Got a whole bunch of mothballed ships.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, why can't we take those mothballed ships out in the middle of the damn ocean, anchor them out, put all the worst of the worst out there, and let them take care of themselves?
Well, because if we hang on 1 second, there's one little teeny tiny problem there, Doug. Okay, one little problem. If we give them the mothball fleet, aren't there a bunch of warships in the mothball fleet? I don't really want them having battleships or anything.
Oh, yeah, well, all you got to do is take guns off of them and just let them take care of themselves.
Yeah, but then they can sail the world.
They can swim, or they can do whatever they want. You know, you can give them a little dirt and they can grow their own vegetables.
Just do the Australia treatment. Just put them somewhere far, far away. I love the call, Doug. Appreciate you being part of the show, man. You want to be part of the show, give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Meanwhile, switching gears for a minute here, bankruptcy is threatening to close all the Rite Aids, all the Rite Aid-owned Washington pharmacies as well, including Bartell Drugs. Now, do you remember just a few years ago, we were talking about this. Bartell's, before they were bought by Rite Aid, was closing a bunch of stores in Seattle because of how bad the crime was. Bartell's then sold to Rite Aid thinking, hey, you know what? Let's get out of this while we can. Got out of it. Rite Aid started saying, okay, where do we have duplicate stores? How can we close those? But also, Rite Aid over-leveraged themselves and had financial problems. I do wonder how many of those financial problems were caused by theft. Because Bartell's was having big issues with theft. Rite Aid was having big issues of theft. And I remember that the Seattle media was desperately trying to prove that it was because of this merger that all these stores were closing, as opposed to the theft, which is the reason all these stores were closing. When was the last time you were in a Bartell's or a Rite Aid? Anybody around here? Do you remember in the Rite Aids especially how everything was locked up? You had to get help, how they're always in bad neighborhoods, how they always have graffiti on the walls or everything else. You think that didn't play a part in this? Sure, you've got these big pharmacies right now, but you had a whole bunch of crime. Look at your Walgreens right now. Where are they? How are they doing right now? Look at your Safeway pharmacies. How are they doing right now? I know, especially in South Seattle, I don't want to go to any of these places anymore because crime has gotten so bad. I assume that the losses that they had, otherwise known as shrink, which is what they call it, when you have things that are stolen, but you also have things that are broken and all this other stuff. Shrink is the term they use to apply to all of it. but it's been including a lot more theft ever since they started defunding the police in Washington state. So this business with Bartels and Rite Aids closing around here is going to leave a lot of people in the lurch. The question is, can we have delivery for seniors from other places? Can these other pharmacies handle the amount of customers they're going to get from all these closures? Now, the left is trying to say, oh, is big corporation gone bad? And this is all corporate greed, that they got too big too fast. Guys, you don't think that the theft played a role in this? I'm not saying they would have been perfectly fine. Of course, mistakes were made. But at the same time, of course, theft had an impact. You want to know how I know? Walk through downtown Seattle. When's the last time you went to the malls down here? When's the last time you went to Pacific Place? Nobody wants to come down here anymore. It's kind of sad. Yeah, sure, for the summer, we're going to see those cruise ships going, and people are going to come in for festivals, and people are going to come in for baseball, and they're going to come in for the cruise ships and everything else. But aside from that, that's what our economy is relying on around here right now, because nobody's downtown anymore. The office occupancy rate is in the toilet. It's getting close to San Francisco's, which is really, really bad with all these businesses moving out. Congratulations, Seattle City Council. You killed all the businesses around here or forced them to move with your crazy head tax. They all got out of here. And then the businesses that relied on those, the barbershops, the grocery stores, didn't have customers anymore. You guys did this to downtown Seattle. And don't say we didn't warn you, because a whole bunch of us did back in 2018 when you were considering this insanity. And who'd you let take over the place? Whole bunch of drug addicts. Saw this over at My Northwest. King County Sheriff's Office says its deputies have successfully dismantled part of a major narcotics operation with over $193,000 worth of narcotics seized. On May 2nd, 2 people were arrested in connection with drug trafficking operation active in Skyway, White Center, and Burien. During the operation, authorities seized 4.4 pounds of heroin, 0.9 grams of cocaine, 11.3 grams of methamphetamine, 5.4 grams of crack cocaine, and 0.7 grams of fentanyl powder. They also recovered $91,000 in cash, believed to be from drug sales, 2 vehicles used for drug distribution, and equipment commonly used to package narcotics. Vehicles used for drug distribution. What are the vehicles used for drug distribution? Is that, well, we need a lowrider with tinted windows? Wait, that's my car. What do we need here for drug distribution? What are the vehicles? Do you have a delivery truck? It says fentanyl on the way. Got a phone number for you to call in the back? Or do they just look like terrible cars for beat up neighborhoods, or do they look like really nice Mercedeses? Which one is it? What kind of vehicle is used for drug distribution? Got that question there. Meanwhile, speaking of drug distribution, we got 2 new light rail stations, which are going to be opening in Southeast Redmond this weekend. The downtown Redmond Link extension creates 2 new line services from Redmond Technology Station in downtown Redmond. The new station is on the 3.4-mile extension, will open on Saturday, May 10th. The Marymore Village Station on 70th Street and the downtown Redmond Station on 166th Avenue Northeast. Now, it's very nice that you're opening all these, but are you actually going to be opening up the thing that's going to connect the east side to Seattle? So they're all very, very excited about this, which people are very excited about this whole thing opening in the first place. But the contractors have to keep starting over and over and over with what's going on the I-90 bridge, with a connection between the two. My question is, do you think this thing is ever going to happen? Do you think they're ever actually going to make these two meet? How many times have they ripped up the tracks already? 3, 4 times? I've lost track. And you put Dow Constantine in charge of it, the guy who's been running it this whole time, and you're paying him hundreds of thousands of dollars? Is this thing going to happen before I have grandkids? Is this thing going to happen before I die? Who actually knows? Let me know what you think. 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, lots more to discuss as the show continues. Another pedophile teacher is exposed here in Washington. How many does that make? 30? 40? I've lost track. We'll give you the awful details when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Mike, I can't believe that in 6 weeks we're going to be switching over to the summer version of that. Can you believe how quickly time flies? Another school year down. Well, another school year, another pedophile exposed. A former Washington high school teacher has been arrested for a second time for sexual misconduct allegations against the student. Now, I got the information from the King County prosecutors on this case because the guy lives in Seattle. I am not reading the details of this case on air. I will clean it up as much as possible and spare you the gory details of this. According to police, former Monroe High School teacher Giles Fraser Stanton is accused of rape and sexual misconduct with a minor as part of an ongoing investigation into his conduct, which led officers to arrest the former teacher for a second time. Monroe police said in a statement that Thursday's arrest follows the victim's statements that were substantiated through investigative methods. The female victim alleged that in late 2018, Stanton initiated interaction with her while she was still a student during school hours, and the relationship continued through her senior year. Physical contact ended after graduation when the victim moved out of state, but they were still communicating, and apparently they have all the text, emails, and everything else that they were communicating by. In 2024, Monroe police investigated reports from female students at the high school who said Stanton approached them at the school, initiated sexual relationships. According to the victim of the recent arrest, sexual encounters initiated by the suspect occurred at school and off campus. They regularly corresponded in writing even after she moved, and the contents of the letters were often sexual in nature. He was arrested without incident, booked into the King County Jail. He was arrested in June 2024 for the first time, charged with 2 counts of sexual misconduct with a minor. In a previous case, Stanton posted $250,000 bail to get out of Snohomish County Jail after pleading not guilty to 2 counts of first-degree sexual misconduct with a minor during a 2017 relationship with a student. That case is ongoing, and the next hearing for it is scheduled on January 16th, 2026. I am not reading the rest of this right here. It's a very disturbing case, and they're still looking for more victims. It's pretty bad. But this leads into something that a lot of people are calling the anti-Christian law, and I'm kind of torn on this thing. I want to know what you guys think about it. Let me tell you what happened. The U.S. Department of Justice has initiated a civil rights investigation into Washington State's recently enacted Senate Bill 5375, which mandates clergy members report information about child abuse or neglect received during confessions, raising concerns over potential First Amendment violations. It was signed into law on May 2nd by Governor Bob Ferguson and requires members of the clergy to report any knowledge or suspicion of child abuse or neglect to law enforcement or state authorities, including information obtained during confessional settings. The law explicitly removes the confidentiality traditionally afforded to religious confessions, particularly impacting Catholic priests who are bound by the sacramental seal. The Justice Department said in a statement that the law appears to compel clergy to act against their religious doctrines, potentially infringing upon the free exercise of religion guaranteed by the First Amendments. The Civil Rights Division will assess whether the statute unlawfully targets religious practices by eliminating legal protections for confidential religious communications. Now, we're going to have Harmeet Dillon on the show tomorrow to discuss all this. Made an appointment today. She's going to be joining us tomorrow. We're going to get into the nitty-gritty of the Department of Justice investigation. Here's where I'm torn. I've had my kids go to schools where they found pedophiles in the schools, where they found predators in the schools, and thankfully they were arrested. And the administration did all the right things along the way. The police did the right things along the way. All of that was taken care of. So I get how important this is. And I get that people don't want it being covered up. And it's not like the Catholic Church hasn't had issues with this in the past. Judaism works a little bit differently. We go to our rabbis, we consult with our rabbis, but we don't have the confessional the way that Christianity, the Catholicism has that kind of stuff. We don't do that at all. Rabbi means teacher. They're more considered advisor. This is the direction we go. Of course, you bring to them confidential kind of stuff, but it's not the same kind of deal. And actually, we have issues with teachers or with administrators who hide these sexual predators and just move them from school to school to school to school. I understand the importance of revealing this kind of stuff. However, there is the First Amendment implications, which is the confessional is the confessional, and what you say in confessional stays in confessional. This is something some Republicans voted for, and I'm not going to bash them for voting for this because I understand where they're coming from, especially if their kids went to schools where there are issues. I want to know what you think, how you feel about this law. I can see it going either way. Now, I know that teachers are supposed to be mandatory reporters. They're supposed to be the ones who report these things all the time. But don't forget, the Democrats who signed this thing into law are the very same ones who are looking to stall as much as possible before teachers had to report the awful things that may have happened, God forbid, to your kids on a school campus. So there's a huge double standard here, and it seems like it's an attack on the church. At the same time, I do understand you want to reveal if somebody is an actual problem. I also understand the First Amendment implications. So give us a call or a text. Let us know what you think. 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Meanwhile, according to Como News, an 11-year-old boy is in custody again after arriving at Alderwood Middle School with 2 knives Monday afternoon. I saw this story, and I thought to myself, is this the exact same story from 2 weeks ago? They just got something confused in their system? No, the same kid showed up with knives again. The boy is the same former Edmond School District student who was wanted for an attempted stabbing at Alderwood Middle School in April. His parents turned him in for the crime, and he was booked into the Denny Juvenile Justice Center for a period of time before being released. Unlike his previous trip to Alderwood Middle School, the boy arrived after school was already dismissed for the day. A brief after-school hours modified lockdown was initiated immediately, and after the boy was seen with a weapon. While under lockdown, school staff contacted the Snohomish County Sheriff's Office, who responded to the middle school just after 3 p.m. Deputies found the boy when they arrived, and he attempted to flee on foot. Deputies took him into custody, along with 2 knives he was carrying. Why was this kid released? He's clearly a threat. The school's lockdown was lifted after the boy was arrested. There were also no injuries to students or staff. In April, the same boy attempted to stab another student while trespassing at the same school. A teacher witnessed the attack and intervened before the victim could be harmed. The 11-year-old then fled the scene on foot and was at large until parents brought him in. So why was this kid released when he's clearly a threat? He's a threat to the exact same school, exact same people. I understand he's an 11-year-old, but sometimes a kid is just a bad seed. Maybe that's why we need more places like McNeil Island to keep the bad seeds away from society so they can't hurt anybody else. You think you can actually reform a kid like this? What's going on in their brain? Speaking of reforming students on campus, later in the show, we're going to have Olivia Krolchek joining us to discuss what's happening at UW tonight. But when we come back right now, the case Ferguson does not want you to know about against him and his office. I'll give you all details when we come back. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Why is it always Washington? Every time there's some kind of scandal, it seems like there is always a root, a thread, something going back to Washington state. So there's a big law firm in the news about them having access to classified material, about them working with different parts of the Democrats. And then, of course, there's ties back to Bob Ferguson, Nick Brown, you name it. It's all going on. Of course, we're talking about Perkins Coie. Joining us to discuss all the intrigue, investigative journalist for the Center Square, TJ Martinell. Thanks so much for being back with us today, buddy.
Yeah, all right, it's good. Good to be back on.
Always a pleasure. So let's start from the top. What do these guys do to get on Trump's radar?
Well, so Perkins Coie was involved with that Russian dossier, and it's a little complicated for people who don't fully follow it, but effectively they were involved in this claim that Russia and Trump had colluded in the 2016 election, and that's since been disproven. The dossier has been debunked. And so this law firm, which is an incredibly large law firm and has offices throughout the country, they've got many contracts with the federal government, and they have a security clearance. And so President Trump, after he took office earlier this year, issued several executive orders saying, we're not going to be continuing these contracts with you, and also we're revoking your security clearance. Shortly after that, Perkins Coie filed a lawsuit against the Trump administration seeking an injunction against it.
Gotcha. So that's what we're dealing with on the national stage. Now, what's their relationship with Bob Ferguson? Because that's making headlines as well.
Well, so what's interesting is the day after this lawsuit was filed by Perkins Coie, the Attorney General's office, so Nick Brown is the current Attorney General, he filed an amicus brief with the federal court overseeing the lawsuit, and it was signed by 20 other state attorney generals. So this is the day after the lawsuit was filed. And in the amicus brief, the Attorney General's office noted that Perkins Coie has often been on the opposite side of the courtroom than they during lawsuits challenging state laws. So what they're effectively saying is we're a friend of the court and we are defending them in their case, even though they've sued and that we've had to represent the state in defense of our laws that Perkins Coie has challenged. What they did not disclose that I know, I was looking through a separate investigation and found out that they had an active contract with Perkins Coie. So the Washington State Attorney General's office had an active contract at the time they filed this amicus brief, which effectively makes Perkins Coie their attorney, which they didn't disclose at all in a brief in which they're presenting themselves as a neutral party.
Of course. This shouldn't surprise anybody here at all. So who's in charge of actually adjudicating this matter? Is this something which is the feds? Is this the state level? Because the state's never going to do anything to Bob Ferguson or anybody else.
No, it's at the federal level. And what's interesting is I filed a public records request recently, and I discovered that they actually have 10 active contracts with Perkins Coie. They don't just have one. So some of them have been going on for several years. Some of them are relatively new, but it's something that they didn't disclose. And when I asked the Attorney General's office about it, they really didn't. They just said it's legal for us to submit an amicus brief, and they kept highlighting the fact that Perkins Coie has sued the state over challenging state laws, and so they feel like that means they're not. It means for some reason that there's not a conflict of interest. It's like, great, they're representing you. They're representing someone else who's challenging state laws, but at the same time, they're your attorneys right now. In certain aspects of the state, they are their attorneys. So they're defending in some way, they're defending their own attorneys. And also more important, and this is another relevant thing, they're getting involved in a lawsuit that involves a private law firm's access to federal tax dollars, federal contracts. And so the question is, how does this concern the state of Washington? Like, how does this concern Washington state taxpayers or our interests in this case? This is about a private law firm having security clearances and getting federal contracts.
Right. So you would be asking why Bob Ferguson is interested in any of this, except for maybe it might help him go up the ladder. I mean, I'm looking at this right now, and there are very few outlets that are even covering this. I think the Center Square has been doing most of the coverage. Do you think it's that a lot of them are worried about losing access, or do you think a lot of them just don't understand it because it's in the weeds a little bit?
It's in the weeds a little bit. I only found this out because I've been doing that ongoing investigation of the Attorney General's office and Washington State University's police use of force database And one of the contracts, so the AG, so Washington State University is a client of the Attorney General's office.
Mm-hmm.
The Attorney General's office allowed them to subcontract or basically hire Perkins Coie to negotiate a separate contract. A little confusing, but it's when they were negotiating with IBM as part of this project. I noticed that and said, they're defending this law firm that they did a contract with. Is that contract still active? I looked into it. Yes, it is still active as of right. These contracts were active at the time of the amicus brief. I don't think anybody else would have picked up on that. And I just wonder if it would even occur to people. I mean, the Attorney General's office has also defended other private firms that are also suing the Trump administration for the exact same reasons. I've filed public records requests to see if the Attorney General's office also has active contracts with them. And it really goes back to two things: why did they not just disclose that they had active contracts with Perkins Coie? Because if this gets all the way to the United States Supreme Court, which it likely will, this could actually be brought up by the United States Attorney General's office and say, hey, these guys are intervened in this case, claiming to be a neutral party when they're not.
That would be amazing.
That could happen. I mean, we're going to have to see what goes down. But if there's other instances of where they're filing amicus briefs in defense of private law firms that they have active contracts with and that they fail to disclose as part of the amicus brief, that could have ramifications. And I'm not an attorney or lawyer, but that could influence how the Supreme Court rules or what it rules.
Wow. I don't think people realize how deep, how far this actually goes. And now we know why the mainstream media isn't covering this, because they're worried about Bob Ferguson taking it personally. They're worried about who else this firm is connected to in the Democrat Party losing access and possibly maybe taking down some people in the administration. TJ Martinell, thank you so much for covering the story that nobody else will. This should be the top of every newspaper in town. That's insane to me that's not. Really appreciate you joining us today, buddy.
Yeah, thanks for having me on again.
Always a pleasure. We got a whole lot more to discuss as the show continues. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. In the White House today, President Donald Trump took some shots at California. Well-deserved shots, given the fact they've poured billions into this high-speed light rail and haven't really accomplished much. Here's what the president said.
In California, a little train going from San Francisco to Los Angeles that's being run by Gavin Newsom, the governor of California. Did you ever hear of Gavin Newsom? He has got, that train is the worst cost overrun I've ever seen. It's like totally out of control. So then they said, all right, we won't go into San Francisco. We'll stop 25 miles short. And we won't go into Los Angeles. We'll stop 25 miles short. It's hundreds of billions of dollars for this stupid project that should have never been built. And then they realized that it would have been a lot less costly if we just gave limousine service back and forth and gave it free. They would have saved hundreds of billions of dollars. They have airplanes that go there for one 1/100th the cost, and they have cars. They have a thing called the highway that goes back and forth that's not fully utilized. And they got involved with this project, and Gavin, you know, I always liked Gavin, had a good relationship with him. I just got him a lot of water. You know, I sent in people to open up that water because he refused to do it. And we just got him a lot of water. If they would have had that water, and if they would have done what I said to do, they wouldn't have had the fires in Los Angeles. Those fires would have been put out very quickly. But if you think about it, and you got to take a look at this, it's the worst cost overrun I've ever seen. I've watched a lot of stupid people build a lot of stupid things, but that's the worst cost overrun I've ever seen, what's happening between San Francisco and Los Angeles. And you ought to ask about that, because this government is not going to pay. I told our very great new Secretary of Transportation, he's doing a good job, Sean Duffy, I said, we're not going to pay for that thing. They are just, it's out of control.
Everybody knows that thing is out of control. It's no different than our own light rail here, which is also out of control. In fact, now there are rumors that they may, after spending billions of dollars and not actually getting a single inch of track put down, they may be abandoning this whole West Seattle link extension. So tons of your money wasted, tons of my money wasted in order to build that thing. But now, Gavin Newsom seems like he's actually interested in working with Trump to save Hollywood. The question is it a good plan? So Donald Trump has announced that he wants tariffs on movies that are made outside of the U.S. Now, a lot of people in the industry are saying this is really, really bad. It's going to cause a whole bunch of problems for video games, for music, for movies. Now, maybe it's better off to just give people tax credits so they make the movies here in the U.S. If they've abandoned Hollywood, let's not forget it's because Hollywood has gotten so expensive to actually make these movies. Now, according to the Post-Millennial, after President Donald Trump announced his plan to implement tariffs on films made overseas, California Governor Gavin Newsom said he wants to team up with Trump, the same guy he and his legislature created a $50 million legal slush fund to fight, to craft a $7.5 billion federal film tax credit to encourage U.S. production. Doesn't that make more sense than the tariffing thing, by the way? He says California built the film industry and we're ready to bring even more jobs home. We've proven what makes strong state incentives can do. Now it's time for a real federal partnership with Make America Film Again. POTUS, let's get it done. Gavin, you're the one who signed all the taxes that got them out of there in the first place. Gavin Newsom is no fool. We think he's a fool, but he's no fool, by the way. This guy wants to be president, and he realizes that California is going more and more red. Does that mean it's going to vote for a Republican? No. But that means they may pick a more moderate Democrat over him or anybody else. So what he's trying to do is get back some goodwill. This isn't a bad idea, by the way. He told the New York Times, America continues to be a film powerhouse, and California is all in to bring more production here. Building on our successful state program, we're eager to partner with the Trump administration to further strengthen domestic production and make America film again. Now, we know this is why everybody goes to Georgia. We know this is why so many movies are made there. All the Marvel movies are made in Georgia. We know this is why all the Warner Brothers stuff is made up in Vancouver, because they know it's so much cheaper to make movies there. We got things made in Canada all the time. Well, California is the one that drove away all this production. And when all you need is a green screen these days in order to make a movie, you don't need to do it in some of the most expensive real estate in the United States. Many states have programs like this to encourage Hollywood to shoot in their states, but right now there's nothing at the federal level. In recent decades, much of film and television production have moved out of California into other states and countries that offer better incentives for production. Lots of television is produced in Canada, in part due to tax credits and rebates from provinces and the federal government. Trump said in his most recent post announcing his tariffs, the movie industry in America is dying a very fast death. Other countries are offering all sorts of incentives to draw our filmmakers and studios away. So he wants to now have tariffs. Instead, what about tax credits? Tax credits make a lot more sense, will be a lot more attractive, and a lot more people will be willing to do it. This is a smart move that Gavin Newsom is actually suggesting. It's actually more of a Republican kind of move, and the tariffs are more a Democrat kind of move. The world is upside down and backwards. It's a little confusing when I'm agreeing with Gavin Newsom over Donald Trump. Let me know what you think. 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, my friends, Kristi Noem owns the Democrats with some awesome audio clips we have of a congressional hearing on immigration. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and on the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up at 5:45, your chance to win fantabulous prizes, including a $50 Daniels Broiler gift card and tickets to see Bryan Adams at Climate Pledge Arena. But before we get to any of that, I don't understand the hate that Pam Bondi gets. I really don't. From the right. People keep saying all the time, stop going on Fox News and do your job. Am I missing something? There's tons of Department of Justice investigations. She seems to have a handle on it. And doesn't every member of this administration go on Fox News all the time? They come on our show when we ask them to come on our show. So I'm just kind of wondering what the hate is about. If you have some insight on that, feel free to give us a call at 206-421-5757 or text us at 206-421-5757. I mean, really seems like she's doing her job, especially with announcements like this one.
This multi-agency operation led by DEA with our local, state, tribal, and federal partners targeted one of the largest and most dangerous drug trafficking and foreign terrorist organizations in our country. The DEA seized 11.5 kilos of fentanyl, including an astounding approximately 3 million fentanyl pills, the largest seizure in our nation's history. These are the pills in the bags right there. The main bottom right, the head of this organization, Sinaloa organization, here in the country illegally, 6 of these guys and women here in the country illegally. His name is Alberto Salazar Amaya. He is the leader, and he was living in Salem, Oregon. With him, they got millions of dollars, cash, cars, but the drugs were in Albuquerque, Phoenix, and Utah. That's how insulated these drug dealer cartel leaders make themselves.
Exactly. Now, here's something else. Still, this is an 80-20 issue. The majority of Americans, I don't know who these 20% are. Maybe they're, I don't know, the ones who are profiting off all this stuff. But still, the majority of Americans want there to be border enforcement, want to get rid of the drug cartels. So the Democrats know this, but the Democrats also know they were on the wrong side of history regarding the border. They know they were the ones who opened the border, and the second they talk about border security, everybody's going to say, hey, you were wrong. That's what they're going to say nonstop. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to find victims. So they tried with Kilmar Abreu Garcia, right? Tried to make the MS-13 gang member a sympathetic character, and it didn't work. Well, now they've got a new lie that they're telling. This is Representative Veronica Escobar, who's challenging Secretary Kristi Noem on this lie that children are getting deported. And even if they were, they're in the country illegally. But hang on a second. Give a listen.
Okay, perfect. I also wanted to ask you about this NBC News story, and I'll enter into the record this article as well. U.S. citizen family traumatized after ICE raided their Oklahoma home in search of someone else. And according to the local affiliate, KFOR, which was reporting on this story, immigration agents raided the home last week. They had a search warrant for the home, but the suspects listed on the warrant were no longer living in the home. The family was forced to wait outside in the rain during the search. A mother and her girls, all U.S. citizens. Their money was taken, their laptop, their cell phone. I asked you at the top of our first round if you believed it was important for DHS and if you would attest to the fact that DHS needs to rectify any mistakes. If this were a mistake, will you ensure that this family, this U.S. citizen family, gets its property back in a timely manner?
Well, in that particular situation, the warrant for that situation was on the house and the facility, not on the individuals that were there. And so that house was being used for human smuggling. And so those operations were conducted against the facility. And even in that situation, there were some individuals there with the same last names and some of the similarities.
But
and
if
so
it were a
are-
mistake,
we are
Madam
continuing-
Secretary,
we
if
believe
it were a
everything was
mistake.
done appropriately, and we'll continue to make sure that it is done and handled appropriately.
So she says, but if it was a mistake, Kristi Noem just goes, it was a mistake. But if it was, will you help them out? Democrats don't know what to do with themselves because they're on the losing side of this issue. So they're desperate for another victim, and they can't find one yet. Now, while Kristi Noem was testifying, of course, DHS also has FEMA under it, and one of the most wackiest-looking members of the House of Representatives, what's her face? Representative DeLauro. You know which one she is. She's the old crone with the purple hair. That's the one she is, right? The one who looks like a Batman villain who found out that they're having a reunion for the 1960s Batman and got into costume to show up. That one. So she is saying she's challenging her on FEMA and what they're doing with FEMA. And, oh, did Kristi Noem bring the goods on this one?
Funding out. Where is the evidence of the
Ma'am.
failure of FEMA?
Congresswoman, we still have claims open from Hurricane Katrina. We have fire claims that are still unpaid to people who said they were due them 7 to 8 to 10 years old. They have never been paid by FEMA. So one of the worst things that the federal government can do is to stand up in front of the American public and say, we will be there, we will walk alongside you in the most horrible time of your life, and then never follow through on it.
Do you remember what happened under the Biden administration when we had a hurricane right before the election? They were denying FEMA help to people who had Trump signs in their yard. That's what FEMA was doing. And this was reported on by every single outlet, not just members of the right-wing media conspiracy. You have open cases regarding Katrina? Is that fraud, or do they actually need the help? We have people who've never been paid that were owed money by FEMA. Where are the Democrats saying, oh, we want to give everybody federal money? You guys should be the ones leading the charge on all this. But this is how many problems we have, and this is why we need to clean up the federal government. Now, one of the other things is, of course, our trade policy. And I'm going to keep saying this over and over again. If we're using the tariffs as leverage, where are the trade deals? Now, this is an article Mike sent over to me based on our conversation yesterday. Mattel's CEO, according to CNBC, says that toy manufacturing won't come to America, but they're going to up the price hikes on this. Now, basically what this means is a lot of companies, like the auto companies, are saying we're going to come back to America, we're going to make things in America to avoid the tariffs. But apparently, the toy companies are saying, no. It's still cheaper to make this stuff in other countries than bring it over to America. So follow that out to its natural progression, as Mike was talking about before, where does that mean you want the child labor being exploited in other countries? Is that what this is?
Well, I mean, I hate to be better them than us, but I guess maybe that is what I'm saying if I follow it to that logical conclusion, because I made a joke in the bullpen today saying that, not a whole lot of small-fingered children to assemble all of those intricate robot parts for your Combat Carl figures, whereas let some other country exploit their uneducated workforce and or violate child labor laws that don't exist in their countries that exist in ours. So at the end of the day, the toy companies look like they're going to raise prices anyway. I've gotten notifications from several retailers, both large and independent. There's a rumor going around that Hasbro is going to be raising their prices on the 9th. Like, get in your pre-orders now to lock in your prices, heavily implying that, prices are going to change on the 9th. So if you want this price for your pre-orders now, get it in before the 9th. And my thing with this whole thing, and I've shared a lot of this odyssey here on the air, is that I don't know who to be mad at this point. Obviously, it's influenced by the tariffs, but it's also the greedy toy companies. So it is a fair amount of column A and column B. And I also feel that these price increases, once they go into effect, they are going to stay in effect regardless of what happens with the tariffs.
By the way, that's a dirty secret with inflation. Once companies figure out you're willing to pay prices for something, then they're going to keep charging that price. So as much as we want prices to come down on eggs and gasoline and whatever else, those are things that move. Those are things that Americans are used to moving.
Right.
But there's other things like the toys. I mean, look, does gum still cost a quarter? No, of course not.
Right.
These are things that go up with inflation. So you got to wonder if they're ever going to bring down their prices, and I don't think they're going to. Something else we were discussing was that these companies could probably have a machine make these toys. If we could take the G.I. Joes apart when we were little kids because it's one screw in the back, a machine could make those. So what does it say? How expensive is it for them to have the machine in America? You would think that would be cheaper if you don't need all the staff and everything else. Granted, there's enormous capital operating costs. But if you could avoid the tariffs, wouldn't you do that and open and make the capital investment to have it here? Wouldn't that make sense, Mike?
Absolutely. Well, and the other component of that article I sent you about Mattel is that only like 40% of their manufacturing is in China. A lot of it is in other countries, including some stuff here in America. But most of their design and innovation and all the things that go into creating an action figure toy happens here domestically. So really, it would be just literally, as I said, getting like a small-fingered workforce to put the Hot Wheels together, to put the Barbies together, to put the Transformers together.
Yeah.
So, well, I don't know. I found myself very conflicted lately because, like, on one hand, I don't need the President of the United States telling me how many transforming robot toys I can have.
Yeah.
Because, again, in that clip that we played yesterday and when we played it a week or so ago, it's like, well, replace dolls with Transformers.
Right.
And it's like, now you're messing with my stuff. I voted for lower grocery prices. Now I'm getting priced out of my hobby. That's a problem for me.
But here's something else. If costs go up on cars, if costs go up on everything that people buy, you lose an election. Just ask Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, because that's exactly what happened to them. Let's not forget, even companies that didn't need to raise their prices used inflation as an excuse for raising their prices, just as Mike is describing. These toy companies, even when they don't need to raise the price because of tariffs, are using it as an excuse. And here's something else. Some of this stuff just doesn't make sense. So the new Prime Minister Carney of Canada shows up at the White House today. Who negotiated the trade deal we have with Canada and Mexico right now, guys? It was Donald Trump. So basically you're saying you negotiated a bad deal? You could have gone to Canada and you could have said, hey, let's make a better deal. We had a good deal last time. Let's make a better one. Could have done the same thing with Mexico, and I really need you to enforce the border. And let's not forget, when he first threatened tariffs, they sent 10,000 troops to the border to help out. So people don't really know what he wants. And because of that, it's creating problems. It also cost Pierre Poilievre, however you pronounce his name, not going to be prime minister. It cost him the election, all this stuff. And Canadians are ticked off, and they're not coming to America anymore. So when he's with the Canadian prime minister, here's what the president said today.
See, the conflict is, and this is very friendly. We're not. This is not going to be like we had another little blow up with somebody else. That was a much different. This is a very friendly conversation.
He seems to get along with this guy, so hopefully that means we're going to have a deal soon. But you got to love Trump, who's doing all the trolling on Canadians while in the Oval Office today.
During the campaign, Prime Minister Carney talked about the American betrayal. How do you react if Canada decided not to shop in the American store as much as before and decided to partner with other countries?
Well, we don't do much business with Canada from our standpoint. They do a lot of business with us. We're at like 4%, and usually those things don't last very long. You know, we have great things, great product, the kind of product we sell nobody else can sell.
He's right about that. Do you want to buy a Canadian car? I don't want to buy a Canadian car.
We are the largest client of the United States in the totality of all the goods. So we are the largest client of the United States. We have a tremendous auto sector between the two of us, and the changes that made have been helpful. 50% of a car that comes from Canada is American.
Time out. Those are American companies doing manufacturing in Canada. Nobody's buying Canadian cars.
That's not like anywhere else in the world. And to your question about is there one thing, No, this is a bigger discussion. There are much bigger forces involved, and this will take some time and some discussions, and that's why we're here, to have those discussions, and that is represented by who's sitting around the table.
See, the conflict is, and this is very friendly. We're not. This is not going to be like we had another little blow up with somebody else. That was a much different. This is a very friendly conversation, but we want to make our own cars. We don't really want cars from Canada, and we put tariffs on cars from Canada, and at a certain point, it won't make economic sense for Canada to build those cars. And we don't want steel from Canada because we're making our own steel, and we're having massive steel plants being built right now as we speak. We really don't want Canadian steel, and we don't want Canadian aluminum and various other things because we want to be able to do it ourselves. And we, because of, past thinking of people, we have a tremendous deficit with Canada. In other words, they have a surplus with us. And there's no reason for us to be subsidizing Canada. Canada's a place that will have to be able to take care of itself economically. I assume they can. I will tell you that Trudeau, when I spoke to him, I used to call him Governor Trudeau. I think that probably didn't help his election. But when I spoke to him, I said, so why are we taking your cars? Why are we taking we want to make them ourselves. I said, and if the price of your cars went up, or if we put a tariff on your cars of 25%, what would that mean to you? He said, that would mean the end of Canada. He actually said that to me. And I said, that's a strange answer, but I understand his answer. But no, it's hard to justify subsidizing Canada to the tune of maybe $200 billion a year. We protect Canada militarily, and we always will. We're going to, that's not a money thing. But we always will. But, it's not fair. But why are we subsidizing Canada $200 billion a year, or whatever the number might be? It's a very substantial number. And it's hard for the American taxpayer to say, gee whiz, we love doing that.
By the way, he's right. He is 100% right. We want the jobs here. We do. But he's the one who negotiated the last deal. So what you're basically saying is that your deal was no good. I need a better deal, which is fine. But in the meantime, what is this doing to our relationship with Canada and American jobs? What's this doing to American products? What's this doing to a whole bunch of stuff right now? Can we get this worked out? We really need these deals announced as soon as possible. Teamsters are very happy, especially the president, Sean O'Brien, who was speaking at the Republican convention.
I think I said this before. Whatever President Trump does, even if it's good for this country, just because his name's Trump, he's not going to get the support. We're looking beyond any differences of opinions that we've had with anybody, and we want to bring manufacturing back to this country. We want to bring jobs, put people to work, have a career path. Not everybody has the ability to go to a four-year college. There's ability to bring manufacturing back, put people to work, have careers, and live a middle-class life.
Yeah, there's some good paying jobs out there.
I think regardless of whether you're a Democrat, Republican, or an independent, we should be realist and want to encourage people to develop and manufacture in this.
So that's something that nobody's talking about. The fact that we have a gap in our education. The fact that we are not encouraging people to go to places where they get educated so that they can get these jobs, so that they can learn to be mechanics and plumbers and electricians, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Because if we don't have them, now you've got a labor shortage for these things you want to make in the U.S. This is something we need to address as well, especially when we're having all these problems with colleges where, one, you take out these massive loans for degrees that can't actually get you jobs, and two, your kids are being brainwashed by the lunatics at University of Washington to go cause over $1 million worth of damage to a brand new engineering building when they take over the campus to support a terrorist organization. That's how backwards things have become in this country. That's why we need this massive course correction, which I get. The question is how to get the American people on board and how to make things a little bit easier for the American people who are paying for the brunt of this right now and the businesses that are paying for the brunt of this right now. Lots more to discuss as the show continues, my friends. When we come back, more drama unfolding in the Barstool Sports arena. But also, what's going on out at the University of Washington? Seems like things might be picking up out there. We'll have all that for you when we come back. But first, Todd Herman's Daily Thoughtcast right now on the Ari Hoffman Show. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder, coming up at 5:45, your chance to win fantabulous prizes, including a $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card and tickets to see Bryan Adams at Climate Pledge Arena. Yeah, another reason. Always keep your radio tuned to 570 KVI. Left on your dial, always right on the issues. You can also stream us at KVI.com, download the KVI app, and, of course, subscribe to us on whatever your preferred podcast platform is. We've been following this drama with Barstool Sports over the weekend. Let's just recap for those of you who don't know what's going on. Barstool Sports, big sports company. Guys love it. It's like a newer version of Maxim magazine with a lot more sports. That's basically what it is. Dave Portnoy, we call him El Presidente, Stool Presidente. This is the guy who runs the thing. Very, very loud, very, very raucous, like a radio show host, I know, but also very, very crass. But there are some things he cares a lot about. So this is a guy who spent hundreds of thousands of dollars of his own money saving restaurants during COVID, raised millions of dollars to save restaurants during COVID. Things he cares about, he helps out. He saved some of my favorite restaurants all over the place that were in big trouble during COVID. He's overall a good guy who's got a lot of flaws. Should we put it that way? Sure, let's go with that. So what happens over the weekend at one of his bars in Philadelphia? He's got a Barstool Sports bar in Philadelphia. They're having an event. And this waitress comes out with a sign that says, F the Jews. She was apparently asked to do it by one of the customers, and it's got the Barstool logo on it. Dave Portnoy goes bonkers crazy because guess what? Dave Portnoy is Jewish, and he's a very, 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 very into stopping anti-Semitism. In addition to that, he's a supporter of Israel as well. But this wasn't an Israel-based thing. It was just somebody saying F the Jews on the sign. Video went viral. He immediately finds out who the waitresses are, fires the waitresses. Then he finds out who these guys are, puts them on blast. And as according to Dave Portnoy, they start crying on the phone. And he says, okay, I'm going to send you to Poland so you can go to a concentration camp. That's where we left it. We have since found out that Temple University has suspended the students who were involved in this, who are the guys behind this whole thing. And now Dave Portnoy today said that these guys are not going to be going to Auschwitz, that they've actually lawyered up. That means they want to sue Dave Portnoy for damage to their reputation or whatever, and they don't want to take the trip to the concentration camp. Personally, I'm not big on these concentration camp trips or these Holocaust trips because I think you're giving people ideas who already hate Jews. Let's not do that. But do you remember yesterday? It was literally the segment before I talked about Dave Portnoy. We had a whole talk where we were discussing these GoFundMes, how these awful people start a GoFundMe and get people to give them money for being murderers, for being discriminatory against black people, you name it. They have these GoFundMes. So what happened today? Dave Portnoy posts this. He took a screenshot of the GoFundMe for Mohammed Khan, the guy who's carrying around the guy who asked for the F the Jews sign, who has a history of anti-Semitic posts in his social media. So he has a legal fund now, stand against his trial by public opinion, which means they're going to go after Dave Portnoy and Barstool Sports. Dave Portnoy writes, the GoFundMe is straight from The Onion or the Babylon Bee. Dude uploads an anti-Semitic video to his own Instagram like a brain-dead moron and is now playing a victim. What a world. Mike, how many times have we seen things similar to this? It's crazy.
We were just talking about that. You just mentioned that, Ari, but like every time there's something like this, hey, GoFundMe. You know, I think the folks that are making out the best in all this outrage is Mr. GoFundMe.
Yeah, well, it's
John GoFundMe, because like, you know, he gets a cut of all this.
Every single time they get a cut. They don't care who has the GoFundMe. They just get a cut of it every time. You know who else makes out like bandits on this? The lawyers. Every single time, it's the lawyers. When we come back, my friends, there's another event at University of Washington tonight. Is it going to draw the same Antifa protesters and Hamasniks that were released today from King County Jail? We'll give you all the details. Young Zach is on the scene. When we come back, you'll listen to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder to follow me over on socials, Ari Hoffman Official on Facebook and Instagram, The Hoffather over on X. That way you get to see all the stuff that's happening in this insane political world of ours and this insane Pacific Northwest when we're not broadcasting on Talk Radio 570 KVI. So last night you would have seen all the insanity going on at University of Washington because we were doing live updates of it. And tonight we'll be doing them as well. Why? Olivia Krolczyk, you might remember, is from the Riley Gaines Institute. She's another one of these female athletes who got beat by a dude who thinks he's a girl, and now she works for the Riley Gaines Institute going around talking about protecting women's sports. Well, a few months back, she was speaking at the University of Washington, and a whole bunch of activists showed up and created so many problems that they had to cancel her event. University of Washington did absolutely nothing to protect her event, and she filed a bunch of Civil Rights Act violations against the University of Washington. Well, now, after last night, especially where the Hamasniks and the Antifa psychopaths showed up to the University of Washington, causing over $1 million in damage to the brand new engineering building, it's so bad classes have to be done on Zoom for the next few weeks. That's how bad it is. That now we have another event happening tonight. Olivia Krolczyk is coming back to the University of Washington with Riley Gaines. Now, we interviewed Olivia a week ago, before any of the stuff happened at University of Washington last night. And this interview is a really fun time capsule, as Mike calls it. Because now knowing what happened at University of Washington last night, knowing what's scheduled to happen at University of Washington tonight, knowing that the University of Washington administration has said they're going to protect this event and it's going to be safe and all the promises they've made, this thing makes for really entertaining listening. This is when we had Olivia on just 1 week ago. As this little time capsule, think of how entertaining this is, given everything that's happened in the week since then, just in the last 24 hours. Joining us now to discuss on the KVI studio line, Olivia Krolczyk. Thanks so much for being back with us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Such a pleasure. So tell me why you think it's worth it going back to University of Washington, because I say, screw it, let the whole thing fall into the Pacific at this point.
Because the truth matters and the truth prevails. And Riley and I will be going there to spread the truth. And the fact is that women deserve privacy, safety, and respect in their sports. We don't need trans women to be competing and taking away scholarships and opportunities from countless women. So we're going back to spread the truth.
I completely agree with you, and I appreciate your efforts. Now, have you been in touch with the university? Are they going to take action this time to actually make sure that your event is safe, that freedom of speech can actually be on campus? Because they were raked over the coals pretty hard for doing absolutely nothing to keep the students safe from the activists that showed up.
Yeah, I have not been in touch with the university myself, but Riley and I will be bringing plenty of security. I would think that University of Washington would be smart enough to, cover their tails at this point. I mean, I filed a federal complaint against them because of their lack of efforts last time that I went there. So I would think that they would have plenty of security this time.
Now, Olivia, what is the status of that federal complaint that you filed? Because I remember when you did it, it was just days after what happened, because they claimed to be people who allow free speech, open ideas on campus, and they clearly weren't. So what is the results of that? Have you gotten any updates from anybody in the federal government?
I haven't yet, but hopefully we will be seeing a change in the next week or so. I know there's a long time with these complaints. I think maybe 180 days until I could actually hear something. So haven't heard anything yet, but I'm very hopeful we will.
Gotcha. Olivia, tell us more about the Riley Gaines Center. I know Riley Gaines, of course, but I'm not so familiar with the organization itself. What do you guys do over there?
Oh, gosh, we do a lot. Most of what I do at the center is going to different college campuses and universities and sharing my experiences being a student and being failed for using the term biological woman in a required DEI course. I go there to speak on the importance of free speech and the importance of protecting women's sports. But there are people at the Riley Gaines Center like Caitlin Wheeler who specifically helps individuals who come to the center asking for guidance on their situations, whether they're being failed in their classes or they're having to compete against men and women. And then obviously there's a lot on the legal side as well that we do.
We're talking with Ambassador for the Riley Gaines Center, Olivia Krolczyk. Olivia, tell me how University of Washington stacked up against some of the other colleges you've been to. Are we among the worst? Are we mid-range for the activist level on campus or for the way the administration deals with this? How would you rank University of Washington?
University of Washington might be the worst campus to ever ever exist in the entire history of campuses. That's my personal opinion, but then again, I was held hostage there, so I might be biased. But there are certainly a lot of other universities that rank among them, like University of Maine, Berkeley, so many other schools. But I definitely think that they need to, take into consideration what happened last time and make sure it doesn't happen again, but we'll see.
I feel where you're coming from because I went and spoke at University of North Carolina, Charlotte for Turning Point USA one time, and over 300 activists were waiting outside trying to block me from even entering the room. They had to bring me in through a roof entrance. It was pretty entertaining, through a parking garage. And even though all the activists showed up at that one, was it bad? Yeah, but it wasn't like the University of Washington because at University of North Carolina, Charlotte, the administration took efforts. They had security, and the event still went forward even with the Looney Tunes. University of Washington, it seems like they allow the inmates to run the asylum.
Yeah, I mean, typically at campuses, I'll have a couple hundred protesters show up, like Northern Michigan University, University of Maine, and they're allowed to protest, free speech. I respect that. But when it gets to the point where they are being violent and I can't get through a sentence without being interrupted, that's when it becomes a problem. And University of Washington did nothing to stop that.
Absolutely crazy. Olivia, if you could do me a favor, and any correspondence you have with the university leading up to this thing, keep us informed of what they say, because I have a feeling they're going to try and find some way to shut this thing down in advance, claiming it's not safe on campus, don't you?
Absolutely. I do know that the university is already offering their safe spaces and counseling to the students because Riley and I are apparently, it says, and I quote, tough stuff on campus.
Yeah.
So they have offered counseling, so we'll see what happens with that.
Oh, that's so good. I actually think you guys could troll them and rent a room in the hub and have counseling for anybody who's offended by all the activists. That could be pretty entertaining,
Right.
except we're not melting snowflakes like them. Olivia Krolchak, ambassador for the Riley Gaines Center, thank you so much for joining us today. Really do appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Bye.
Now, this is really surreal. We just finished that time capsule interview. Olivia is going to be speaking with Riley Gaines at University of Washington at 6 o'clock, I believe it is.
Very soon.
And
Imminent, you might even say.
And on Fox News, they're discussing it, showing video of what happened last night. But not just that. We have Zach from The Morning Show now joining us, who is at the University of Washington. Zach, what's it look like down there? Here's some noise in the background.
Well, there is noise, Ari. There's a lot of songs at this protest as opposed to last night. A lot of chants last night, a lot of songs tonight. I saw the set list. It looks complex. So things have been stepped up a little bit. But so basically, to set the scene, you got on one side of the street, on the Ethnic Cultural Center side of the street, that's where the community space would be. That's where the protesters are at. And I will say not a lot of black bloc. And to their credit, mostly UW students. I've talked to a few. We're going to try to get one on here shortly, live on the air. And then on the other side of the street, you've got the Ethnic Cultural Theater, and that's where the event's taking place, and that's where the line is forming for that event. So let me head right into the middle of the counter-protest where the activists are at, and let's see if we can get someone to talk to us, tell us why they're out here.
Oh, this is great. This is so much fun on the radio. I love the singing in the background. I love the chanting in the background. This is just fantastic.
All right, I think we're ready to go. Are we ready?
Yeah, we're good. Let's go. Who do you got for us?
All right, can I ask you just your first name?
I'm talking with another journalist right now.
Okay, sorry, we'll come back. There's been a couple students that said they wouldn't talk to journalists, so let me pop across the street.
Who is he talking to over there, Zach?
I don't know. Somebody with a phone. I have a microphone. One of us is a journalist. Even Jonathan Cho brings equipment.
That's right. Exactly right. Yeah.
All right. I made it across the street. I'm on the Riley Gaines side. Let's see who we can find.
Describe
the
crowd. What do we got?
Nice people, real nice folks in regular clothes on this side. I feel much more comfortable. Excuse me, you two look like UW students. Could we ask you live on the air right now, what are you doing out here? It's a sunny day. You could be at a bar. Why are you here?
I'm sorry, I don't really know what's going on. We just came to check out
to see what people are protesting.
No worries. Well, let me ask you this. The climate on campus lately. Yesterday, obviously, some shenanigans, shall we say, ensued. This is now going on. What's the vibes on campus? How are you feeling? Is it safe? Is it weird? What's the times like?
Definitely got a very weird email this morning from the dean and could totally see what side she was on, and I don't know.
And what side was that?
Pro-Israel.
Yeah, we were really surprised to see her condemn the actions of the students who were protesting and not say anything about condemning the police violence that happened or like the really excessive police presence that showed up.
And was it with the fire and everything, was there any bit of fear last night or that things got out of hand, or did you feel it was justified and understandable?
I didn't hear about it until this morning, but I was just surprised that such a huge police presence showed up to respond to it.
Zach, ask them
Gotcha.
about the $1 million damage to the building.
Well, I hear the damage is going to be $1 million to that building. How long ago did that open?
I don't know.
No worries. I was not admitted to the School of Engineering myself, so I get it. Anyway, thank you both for speaking. Sorry, I'll let you go back to your day. Let's keep going. Let's see who we can talk to.
You're doing great, Zach. You managed
Anybody
to
want to go live on the radio right now?
Yeah.
All right, we got a nice lady here. What's your name?
Kathy Lambert.
And what are you doing out here tonight?
I'm here to say that women are important and every young woman should be able to compete in sports. There are so many CEOs who were in sports, and it helps women to have the opportunity to compete and to have a wonderful future. And we're here to protect women.
Well, that's wonderful. Thank you so much, Kathy.
Zach, thank the former King County Council member for being on the Ari Hoffman show today.
Well, I'll go back and do that later. I'm on the other side of the street now. I'm going back to my guy.
You
My
can't
guy's got
help
me.
yourself,
I
can
can't.
you?
I can't help myself.
Go blow the
All right,
dude's
we're
cover.
back. No journalists around. All right, live on the air. What's your name?
My name is Alex.
And why are you out here tonight, Alex? It's a nice day. You could be at a bar. Why out of protest?
It is a beautiful day. I'm here because Olivia Krawczyk and Briley Gaines are grifters. They make their livings spreading the narrative that transgender people are a threat. The right is trying to distract from the fact that billionaires have taken over our country and are robbing us blind by scapegoating immigrants and trans people and blaming DEI. Those with wealth and power know that if they divide us against each other, they will not have resistance. These people are trying to stoke outrage in order to fill their social media with wild claims about Antifa,
Is
and
he
they
reading on
frame
a
it
piece
as
of
if
paper
they're
or a
being
phone?
censored. We are telling them we will not be tolerant of their intolerance. We are responding to their hate with love and joy in solidarity with the transgender community and LGBTQ plus community.
Thank you so much, Alex. One question off the script. You don't have to answer if you don't want. Obviously, some stuff went down last night. This is going down tonight. Any connection? Does this feel different? Were you at last night's protest? What has campus felt like today? No comment? That's all right. All right. All right.
Zach.
Any other questions?
You
All right.
stay safe down there, my man. We got to go and give away some prizes, but thank you
Oh,
for being with
fantabulous.
us today. Fantabulous prizes. Exactly right. Stay safe. Keep us updated, all right, buddy?
Will do. Thanks, Ari.
All right, remember to listen to Zach on the morning show tomorrow with all the information from what he saw at the University of Washington. You can catch the morning show from 6 to 9 a.m. right here on Talk Radio 570 KVI. When we come back, only good news, your chance to win fantabulous prizes. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. It is time to feel good as we wrap up another amazing episode of the Ari Hoffman Show right here on Talk Radio 570 KVI. And before we get to our good news giveaway, some of you have been asking about the details for University of Washington. Here's how Turning Point USA events work, guys, because a lot of you were disappointed at Charlie Kirk. When you show up at University of Washington, they prioritize students and they also prioritize who's in line. And when they don't have any more seats, they don't have any more seats. So if you want to hear Olivia Krolczyk and Riley Gaines, you got to get out to University of Washington right now because that line has already formed. It's already there. Tomorrow, Zach and Phil on the morning show will have updates of what Zach saw on campus tonight. Is it going to get out of hand? Do you think that UW is not going to let a chance of another building getting destroyed to the tune of over $1 million? Now, just my 2 cents for a second. Is that regarding the building, remember last time with the people going against Riley Gaines, the majority of the activists were out on the streets. It was 5 or 6 Antifa guys who were making all the problems and throwing in the noisemakers. Is that going to happen again tonight? Make sure you're listening to the morning show from 6 to 9 a.m. with Zach and Phil, the morning ride. That way you can get all the details on what happens tonight. Make sure you follow me over on social media, Ari Hoffman Official on Facebook and Instagram, the Hofffather over on X. And before I forget, your chance to win fantabulous prizes. Today we are giving away a $20 Daniel's Broiler gift card. A $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card. Daniel's Broiler has been a Seattle favorite since 1980. Features USDA prime steak and other specialties, including chicken and fresh seafood, as well as a selection of high-end spirits, wine, and cocktails. Daniel's Broiler is open now in Bellevue, downtown Seattle, Leschi, and South Lake Union with dine-in, takeout, and delivery. Check out danielsbroiler.com to reserve a table, place your takeout, delivery order, and more. We're also giving away a copy of 7 Steps to a Successful Retirement and a bonus of the Little Red Book of Retirement by Brian Evans of Madrona Financial and CPAs. Learn how to design your retirement to support your quality of life for 30-plus years from Brian Evans of Madrona Financial and CPAs, a local company working to help you grow deep financial roots so future financial storms don't blow your life savings away. Visit madronafinancial.com for more information and discover how you can create a rooted wealth plan today. Last but certainly not least, we are giving away 2 tickets to Bryan Adams at Climate Pledge Arena on November 21st. Get your tickets now at Ticketmaster.com. That's Ticketmaster.com. All you have to do in order to win these fantabulous prizes is be caller number 10 at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Caller number 10 will win a $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card, a copy of 7 Steps to a Successful Retirement, a bonus of the Little Red Book of Retirement, both by Brian Evans of Madrona Financial and CPAs, and 2 tickets to see Bryan Adams at Climate Pledge Arena on November 21st. Phone lines are open now. Give Mike a call for your chance to win at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Don't forget to tune to the morning show tomorrow from 6 to 9 a.m. for all the updates from young Zach at the University of Washington right now. That's going to do it for us today, my friends, but don't worry, we'll be back tomorrow with more insane stories, more exciting guests, including Harmeet Dillon, and, of course, more giveaways. You've been listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI.